Most people have a childhood memory of a favorite toy. I have the memory of the smell of the heavy face paint and the realization that my headgear weighed more than my head. Hi, I'm Advika Shetty, and I started dancing when I was 4 years old. At least, that's what the record says. But dance has entered my life much before that. It came in quietly, naturally, almost without announcement. It didn't feel like a decision, it felt normal. It felt like something that had quietly settled into my life, even before I had the language to describe it or the awareness to question it. Looking back now, it didn't feel like something I chose at all. It feels like something that was already there, waiting for me, as if the decision had already been made even before I understood what dance even meant, before I understood it, before I named it. It chose me. Very early on in my life, dance took me to places that most children don't enter so soon. And reality shows were one of them. Well, they taught me a lot. Not just about dance, but how the world works. It pops the bubble that you are inside that differentiates between the reality and your own pretty little world. Most of the time, they were very exciting, and sometimes a tight slap on the face. You realize very quickly that there are so many people out there who are much better than you. There are people who are as good as you. And then there are those who fit exactly into what the system wants you to be. But between all this chaos and all this comparison, one thing becomes very clear that no matter how crowded the room gets, there can never be someone like you. When people look at a child on the stage performing, especially in a form like Yakshagana, what they usually see is something very clean and very beautiful. The talas, the music, the costume, the colors, the entire performance looks put together so perfectly, like a smooth thread with no knots in it. But what people don't realize is what goes into holding this picture together. Well, I was 9 years old when I started performing Yakshagana, and the costume alone would weigh a lot. Let alone you carrying your head weight, the headgear, the weight of the headgear, your makeup, the technical precisions of your movements. And at that age, it's quite difficult for you to understand what a performance demands, let alone carrying it all with ease. But the strangest thing is that the moment I stepped on the stage, everything else disappeared. The weight disappeared, the pressure disappeared, the fear disappeared. It never felt like I tried to dance. It always felt like the dance was carrying me, like the stage was pulling me in even before I thought about it. One of the Yakshagana performances that I remember very clearly is when I played the role of Krishna for the first time. The blue paint on the body, the entire makeup, and the entire portrayal is exactly how you can think Krishna is portrayed in a traditional way. After the entire performance, I was backstage goofing around, being myself. Few people from the audience came back and they asked, "Who was the little boy who played the role of Krishna?" Now, let me tell you, I was bubbling with joy. And whoever asked me this question, I said, "No, I am a girl." And it took them by such a surprise. But more than the surprise, what stayed with me was the appreciation for my performance. It meant the absolute world to me. It felt good to know that something that I had done with my heart and soul with so much of practice had reached people the right way. But every performance carries more than what the audience sees, and so does the performer. And not everything from my journey is easy for me to look back on. There are so many moments that I do not want to remember. But somehow, they still stay with me. Not because I want them to, but these are the exact things that have shaped me slowly, knot by knot, teaching me who I was becoming. As I grew older, dance became more than just a private thread. It became something more visible, something more judged, something more shared. The quiet space where dance and I lived began filling in with voices. Voices of praise, voices of expectation, voices of being compared. I noticed how my friends started to feel it too. That the attention around me wasn't just mine, but theirs in a way. That being with me meant carrying a certain weight. And as an artist, when you perform on these stages, the more stages you perform on, you learn something. That a performance isn't just about movements, it's also about the lights. Every stage has a grid of spotlight, each placed at a certain angle. And if you miss the mark even by few inches, your face falls into shadow. If you slightly turn your chin away, the audience loses the expression. If you step far forward, the light washes you out. If you step far back, you completely disappear. And that's when you start how to locate the spotlight. You learn where the brightest circle falls. You learn how to adjust your body without making it obvious. You angle your shoulders in a way according to what light is hitting you. The performance never changes, but the way it is seen, that changes completely depending on what light is hitting you. The dancer never changes, but the spotlight does. With all these realizations hitting you, you understand something even more bigger, that a performance is never seen as a whole. It's always seen through somewhere, from a certain angle, under a certain light, through a certain frame. You guys as an audience see what the spotlight allows you to see. The critic sees something else. And those cameras see something else completely different. And as dance became more visible in my life through social media, competitions, and reality shows, I realized that that's exactly how even our life works. The spotlight changes, expectations shift. One day you're celebrated, the other day you're questioned. Sometimes you're sharply defined, and sometimes blurred. The art remains the same, but the perception, that shifts. Nowhere was this more clear to me than on the stages of the reality show. Reality show gave me a lot of experiences. But one such experience that has stuck to me till date is during the final rounds of one of the auditions. We all were waiting for the announcements, who our mentors were going to be and how things were going to look forward. And I had a roommate there. You know, during the final auditions, we were given these rooms and a roommate to share with, of course. And somehow we grew close. We became good friends, and she was an absolute beautiful dancer. But unfortunately, she did not get selected. And at that time, I felt so sad about it that I remember crying about it. And the contestant who was sitting next to me, she just called me and she asked me why was I even crying. And when I replied, she looked at me very confused and very surprised. And she said, "But you got selected, right? That's all that matters. Why are you thinking about someone else and crying for them? Look after yourself. That's what's important." Right now, when I'm saying all this, you guys might think it's so small or even pointless. But back then, that's what I felt. And I think that's what being a child means. You respond first with emotion and not strategy. And that was probably the first time when I realized how quickly the world asks you to think only about yourself and how early competition teaches you what to ignore. Because dance today isn't just art, it's also business. It's performance and product. What counts as dance has grown into so many forms. some intricate and deeply practiced, some quick and viral. Social media has changed how we view things. And of course, while all this affects on how you think of art, and also it commercializes it and brings you a lot of opportunities, it also brings a lot of challenges. And through all these challenges, I've always believed in two things. The first one, go with the flow. The other one, keep doing the things you're supposed to do, you'll be rewarded. I believed in them deeply. So deeply that when a friend of mine was going through a rough phase, I said the same thing. Go with the flow. It's okay. Life is going to happen anyways. Why are you going to think about it? They listened to me very carefully and then said, okay, but only dead fishes go with the flow. And I was like, oh. It did sound funny at first, but then later I thought about it and I remember replying that maybe it isn't about being a fish that always goes with the flow, but it is about being a fish that knows when to break the flow of water and who knows to also go with the flow of water. And honestly, I felt really great about myself after I said that. But all these things were easy for me to say up until life decided to test it out. In 2021, I suffered a severe tendon Achilles rupture. And the doctor suggested I quit dancing. Of course, because, it would worsen my pain and could have a permanent damage. And for the first time, I was asked to step away from dance. The only thing that I knew how to do perfectly. The only thing that has quietly followed me through all the stages of my life. But after months of rest, recovery, tears, and more patience than I thought I had possessed, I finally found my way back onto the stage. Not fragile, not broken, just more aware. I returned not as someone who had lost something, but as someone who had understood its value even more deeply. And that's when I understood how dance was holding on to me long before I realized how tightly I was holding on to it. But the Achilles, however, it developed a little personality. Once every year, it drops in unannounced, says a polite hi, and reminds me of its existence, and goes off quietly. But now I have learned how to greet it back, not with fear, but with respect. And moments like these keeps you grounded. And they teach you that applauses aren't always going to protect you from the reality. And all these experiences haven't made my life any simple. They have made it more complex, layered with perspectives. And sometimes when the weight of all this thinking is too much, I stop trying to control it all. I think about it for a while, and then I let it go. I let the thread carry me. And dance helps me do that. But letting go isn't always about moving. Sometimes it's about talking to someone who genuinely wants to listen to you. And sometimes it's about knowing that the pain will eventually fade away. At the end of the day, I get back home, put on music, and start dancing. Not to perform, not to practice, but just to dance. Because I want to let go of things and to escape the reality at least for a little while and be in my own little world. And for a fact, I know that no matter what happens, I have this thread with me. I have my art with me. Many people say that life has taught them a lot of lessons, a lot of things. But to me, dance has taught me what life is. And starting young don't just mean you grow into your art. You grow with it. And when your art becomes more visible, commercialized, judged, the real challenge isn't about staying famous. It's about staying yourself, staying true to yourself, where you come from. It's holding on to those quiet spaces where your true self and your art meets. That's yours. Unwritten, fragile, and more powerful than you think it is. And that's why I can confidently stand here and tell you that my art knew me even before I knew myself. All of us have our own little unique stories. It's just that we gotta own it. Own all of it. The failure, the success, insults, humiliation, tears, everything. And only then you'll be the true storyteller of your own little story. Through all the stages, every single setback, every single doubt of mine, there were hands back home who made sure I never let it slip away. The thread that came naturally to me when I was 4, when I was a little girl, is still with me, woven through every choice and every moment. And that's the thread I'm still following. Well, then, this was my story up until now. What's yours? Thank you.